My grandson called me in the middle of the night. "Grandma, I'm at the police station. My stepmother hit me, but she's saying I attacked her. Dad doesn't believe me." When I arrived, the night officer went pale and muttered, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." I jolted awake in my silent house. At that hour, no call ever brought good news. I reached into the darkness for my phone on the nightstand. The cold glow of the screen hit my face, pulling me back into reality. On the display was the name Matthew, my grandson, the only one who still called me Grandma with real affection, not out of obligation. "Matthew, what's going on?" My voice was hoarse from sleep, but my heart pounded with dread. "Grandma," his voice trembled, breaking between sobs, "I'm at the police station. Vanessa hit me with a metal candle holder. I'm bleeding above my eyebrow, but she told them I pushed her down the stairs." "Dad believes her, Grandma. He doesn't believe me." I couldn't breathe. I sat on the cold tile floor, his words echoing in my head like bullets. Vanessa, the wife of my son, had turned Adrian into a stranger to his own mother. "Calm down, sweetheart. Which station are you at?" "In Napa, Grandma. I'm scared. They said if no guardian comes, they'll send me somewhere else." "Don't say another word," I interrupted, trembling as I grabbed my clothes. "I'm coming. Don't talk to anyone until I get there, understand?" "Yes, Grandma." He hung up, and I stood frozen in the room, clutching the phone as if it were the only thing tethering me to reality. The reflection in the mirror showed a 68-year-old woman, hair disheveled, dark circles under tired eyes, but I didn't see a fragile old lady. I saw Melissa Carter, retired police lieutenant, 35 years of service, who had interrogated criminals, solved hopeless cases, and faced fears most people couldn't bear. And after 8 years of retirement, that woman came back to life. I threw on black pants, a gray sweater, and my old boots. When I reached for my purse, I opened a drawer and saw my old badge still lying there. I slipped it into my back pocket. Maybe it no longer held authority, but my gut told me I'd need it tonight. Outside, the city was drowned in thick darkness. I called a cab from the main road. The driver, a man around 50, looked at me through the rearview mirror. "Where to?" "Downtown police station." "Please, as fast as you can, it's an emergency." He nodded and pressed the gas. I stared out the window, but all I could see was Matthew's face and hear his voice repeating, "Dad doesn't believe me." Adrian, my son, the boy I raised alone after my husband left when he was 3. I gave him everything: education, love, trust. Yet for the past 5 years, he had cut me off completely, no calls, no visits, all because of Vanessa. He met her in a casino where she worked as a dealer. Adrian had just lost his wife Matthew's mother, and he was completely broken. Vanessa appeared like an angel. Young, beautiful, gentle, too perfect to be real. From the start, I saw the truth. She didn't look at my son with love, but with calculation. But Adrian was blind. The emptiness in his heart made him cling to anyone who made him feel wanted. Vanessa began poisoning his mind. "Your mother controls you too much. Real love doesn't chain you like that. She's always judging you." The poison dripped slowly, turning clear water into something foul. The visits grew fewer, the calls shorter, birthdays forgotten, Christmases spent with excuses. Then one day, he disappeared from my life entirely. Only Matthew came by occasionally, sneaking over on weekends when he was with his dad. He brought me drawings from school, told me stories from class, hugged me tight, as if my arms were the only place he felt safe. I thought things would get better, that Adrian would eventually wake up. I was wrong. The cab stopped in front of the police station, a gray 2-story building under harsh white lights. I paid the fare and stepped inside. My legs trembled, not from fear but from anger. The officer on duty, about 25, looked up. "Good evening, ma'am. How can I help you?" "I'm here for Matthew Carter, my grandson. He just called me." He checked the list in front of him. "Ah, the domestic violence case. You're his grandmother, Melissa Carter?" When he heard my name, his expression shifted. "Wait, Carter? Like Lieutenant Carter?" I pulled the old badge from my pocket and set it on the desk. His eyes widened. He shot to his feet. "My God, Lieutenant Carter. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were related to him. Please, come with me." "Where's my grandson?" I asked, my voice carrying the authority I thought I'd long lost. "In the waiting room with his father and the complainant. Detective Carlos Soares is handling the plaintiff case." Soares. The name stopped me cold. One of my former officers, good man, sharp, fair. "Take me to him." The young officer nodded, leading me down the familiar corridor. Memories flooded back, long nights, interrogations, the hum of fluorescent lights. You never really leave who you are. You just pretend to. In the waiting room, the lighting was harsh and sterile. Matthew sat on a plastic chair, a makeshift bandage over his right eyebrow, eyes swollen from crying. When he saw me, he jumped up and threw his arms around me. I stroked his hair and whispered, "I'm here, sweetheart." But then I saw the others. Adrian stood against the wall, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes filled with anger, shame, and something I couldn't name. Beside him, Vanessa sat with her legs crossed, the picture of a perfect victim. She wore a burgundy satin robe, a bruise blooming on her arm, brown hair cascading in waves. She looked at me, as if to say, "See what your grandson did to me." I recognized that look, the look of a manipulator who knew how to perform. "You shouldn't have come, Mother," Adrian said coldly. Those 5 words cut deeper than any knife. Before I could respond, the door opened. A man in his 50s stepped in wearing a pressed uniform, Detective Carlos Soares. When he saw me, he froze. "Lieutenant Carter." "Hello, Carlos," I said evenly. "It's been a while." "I didn't know you were involved in this case." "Now you do," I replied. "Tell me what's going on." I had a feeling Matthew's phone call was just the tip of the iceberg, and tonight I would see what lay beneath. Carlos led me to his office. Matthew followed closely, his hand clutching mine. Adrian and Vanessa stayed in the waiting room. I could feel my son's gaze burning into my back, but I didn't turn around. The office was small but tidy, a metal desk, 2 chairs, a filing cabinet, a crucifix on the wall. Everything looked the same, even the smell of cold coffee and old paper. "Have a seat," he said, closing the door. I sat, Matthew beside me, head bowed, hands twisting in his lap. Carlos opened a file and sighed. "It's complicated, Lieutenant." "Then explain," I said firmly. "Start with her statement." Carlos nodded, reading from the file. "Miss Vanessa Cortez Carter filed a report close to midnight, accompanied by her husband, Mr. Adrian Carter. She claims that around 10:30 p.m., the boy came home late. When she scolded him, he reacted violently, pushed her down the stairs, and hit her arm. The bruises partially match her statement. Each word pierced me. I looked at Matthew. His hands trembled. "And my grandson's statement?" I asked, though I already knew. He says Vanessa attacked him first. He said that when he came home, she was waiting in the living room, furious. Without saying a word, she picked something up and struck him on the head. According to Matthew, it was a silver candle holder. The wound above his eyebrow required 3 stitches. "Did you check the candle holder?" I asked. Carlos shook his head uneasily. She said there's no such object, that he made it up to cover his own assault. And here's the biggest issue, Lieutenant. Their home's security cameras conveniently malfunctioned that night. Just that night. I leaned back, suspicion rising. This wasn't coincidence. "How convenient," I murmured. Carlos met my eyes, the look of a man who knew something was wrong but lacked proof. Her husband claims the cameras had been out for 3 days. They were planning to call a technician this week. We're trying to get footage from neighbors, but it's a gated community, no public cameras nearby. Of course, I thought. Vanessa had planned this perfectly, every detail, every move. This wasn't an outburst. It was a setup. I turned to Matthew and took his hand. "Look at me, sweetheart." He lifted his tear-streaked face. "Tell me everything from the beginning, don't leave anything out." Matthew swallowed hard, glanced at Sora's, then back at me. "I came home late because of a study group. We have a math test Monday. I got in around 10:15, not that late, but when I opened the door, she was sitting in the dark, only the kitchen light on. She said, 'Late again, you little brat?' I told her I texted Dad, but she laughed and held up his phone. It was in her hand. He was asleep. Then she said, 'Your dad doesn't care about you. Nobody does. You're a burden in this house.' Tears streamed down his face. 'I just wanted to go upstairs, Grandma, I swear.' But she grabbed my arm and yanked me back. I pulled away, and she grabbed the silver candle holder from the table and hit me in the forehead. He pointed to the bandage. Everything went blurry, and I fell to the floor. While I was bleeding, she started hitting herself against the wall to make bruises. I saw it, Grandma. I saw it happen. Where was your dad? I asked. He was asleep. She made him chamomile tea earlier because he said he was stressed. When he heard the noise and came down, everything was already staged. Vanessa was crying, saying I attacked her. He didn't even ask what happened, he just yelled, called me a monster, and phoned the police. I closed my eyes, forcing down the fury rising in my chest. And the candle holder? She hid it before Dad came down. I don't know where. I opened my eyes and met Sawers's gaze. Carlos, you've known me 20 years. Have you ever seen me let an innocent person take the fall? Never, Lieutenant. Then believe me, my grandson is telling the truth, and I'll prove it. Sawers rubbed his face. Melissa, legally, my hands are tied. It's one minor's word against 2 adults. The father sides with the wife. There's no physical evidence to contradict her story. So what can you do? I can release the boy into your custody pending investigation, but you'll need to sign for responsibility. Do it. I'll take him. He filled out the paperwork while I looked at Matthew. 16 years old, almost a man, yet sitting there with swollen eyes and a bandaged forehead, he was still the 7-year-old boy who once cried in my arms when his mother died. How long has this been going on, Matthew? I asked softly. What do you mean, Grandma? Don't pretend you know what I'm asking. Silence. The clock ticked loud in the small office. Finally, he whispered, about 6 months. At first, it was yelling. Then she started breaking my stuff, my game console, my notebooks, the soccer trophy you gave me. She said they were accidents. Dad believed her. Then she started hitting me, slaps, shoves. Once, she locked me in the basement all afternoon because I said I wanted to visit you. My heart shattered. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I was scared. Dad would hate you even more. I thought if I just endured, things would get better. But today was different, Grandma. I saw something in her eyes. She wanted me gone. Soares handed me the form. I signed without reading. He stood. I'll bring your son in to sign the rest. He stepped out, leaving us alone. I held Matthew tight. His body finally relaxed, as if he could breathe again. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I should have seen it sooner. It's not your fault, Grandma. It's Dad's. He just doesn't want to see. He was right, but it didn't make it hurt less. The door opened. Adrian walked in alone, avoiding my eyes. He grabbed the pen and signed the papers with sharp, impatient strokes, as if he couldn't wait to leave. Done, he said coldly. Adrian, I stood up. We need to talk. There's nothing to say, he replied, still facing away. You chose to believe him over my wife. Now take responsibility. I looked into his eyes, and a plate by. Chill ran down my spine. There was no love left, no remorse, only emptiness. My son attacked my wife. The evidence is there. She has bruises. He's been trouble at school. What? Matthew shot up. That's not true. I've never been in trouble. You were suspended last week for fighting, because that guy was harassing a girl. I defended her. The principal even praised me after witnesses spoke up. Adrian didn't answer, he just turned and slammed the door behind him. I stood still, feeling every last hope I had for my son collapse. Soares placed a hand on my shoulder. I'm really sorry, Melissa. Don't be, I said, wiping away an unwilling tear. He's made his choice. Now it's my turn. I took Matthew's hand. Let's go home. We stepped out into the cold night. Vanessa and Adrian were gone. Under the dim yellow streetlight, Matthew looked up at me. What do we do now, Grandma? I looked into his eyes, just like his. Mother's, gentle and honest. We'll prove the truth, and she'll pay for every tear you've shed. Vanessa made a mistake tonight, one that will cost her everything. She laid a hand on my grandson, and no one, absolutely no one, hurts my family without facing me. The woman who used to be Lieutenant Melissa Carter was back, and this time, no retirement would hold her back. What was Vanessa hiding? Why did she hate an innocent child so much? The truth was darker than I imagined. We arrived at my small apartment just as dawn broke. Matthew walked beside me in silence, his steps heavy with exhaustion and pain. My third-floor apartment in the old neighborhood wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every picture, every memory belonged to me. I unlocked the door and turned on the light. The familiar scent of coffee and cinnamon filled the room. I always kept cinnamon sticks on the stove so the place would smell warm. Sit down, sweetheart. I'll fix you something to eat. I'm not hungry, Grandma. I didn't ask if you were hungry. Matthew gave a small smile and sat on the worn brown couch. I went into the kitchen, warmed some milk, made 2 mugs of hot chocolate the way my mother used to, and sliced a piece of leftover cake from the bakery down the street. When I brought it out, Matthew took a sip, closed his eyes, and for a moment, forgot everything. Thanks, Grandma. Eat up, then I'll give you some pain medicine. I sat beside him. Outside, the city was waking up. Grandma, Matthew said softly, can I stay with you? Of course, for as long as you need. I don't mean just for a few days. I don't want to go back there, Not while she's still in that house. I set my mug down and looked straight at him. Legally, your father still has custody. I can only keep you temporarily. If you want to live here permanently, we'll have to do it properly, get a lawyer, go through court. But Dad will never agree. We don't know that until we try. He listens to her, Grandma. Ever since they got married, he's been a different person. Then Matthew lowered his voice to a whisper. You know what I heard last week? They were in their room. I was walking past to go to the bathroom. The door was cracked open. Vanessa was on the phone with someone, saying, Relax, everything's going according to plan. When the old lady dies, Adrian inherits the house. We'll sell it for at least $4.5 million. With that money and what I've saved, we'll move to Florida and open the hotel we've always dreamed of. And the boy will send him to military school and let someone else deal with him. As Matthew repeated those words, my blood boiled. Are you sure you heard that right? I'm sure, Grandma. That's why when she attacked me that night, I realized it was part of her plan. She wants to drive me away from you, make you think I'm a burden, make Dad think the same. Once I'm out of the picture, she just has to wait for you too. He didn't finish, but I understood. Vanessa was waiting for me to die, or at least hoping it would happen soon. I could feel her entire scheme to destroy the bond between me, my son, and my grandson. Did you tell your father? I did. The next day, when she went out to get her hair done, I told him everything. You know what he said? He said I made it up because I couldn't accept that he had a new life. He called me a selfish teenager and said Vanessa had been patient with me, but all I did was make her miserable. That feeling of helplessness was unbearable. The son I raised to be an honest man was completely blind. You didn't make anything up, Matthew. I believe every word. He leaned his head on my shoulder, sighing. Why does she hate us so much, Grandma? Because people like Vanessa don't know love or hate. They only know ambition. To her, you and I are obstacles, things standing between her and what she wants. And what does she want? Money and power. A life of comfort without lifting a finger. I sat quietly, piecing things together. When Adrian met Vanessa, she said she was from a wealthy family in Chicago, went to a private school, and worked as a dealer in a casino only because she liked the thrill. But we never met a single relative of hers. No one attended their wedding. When I asked, Adrian said she'd had a falling out with her parents and lost contact. Too convenient, wasn't it, Matthew? I need your help with something. Anything, Grandma. Get your phone. Show me the photos of the bruises you told me about. Matthew took out his phone and opened his gallery. He had a hidden folder. At least 20 photos, bruises on his arms, back, and legs. All fresh, all dated. Why didn't you show me these before? I was scared Dad would blame you. Vanessa always said you were, turning me against them. Send them all to me, Matthew did. My phone buzzed non-stop as the photos arrived. Each one was evidence, a silent cry for help that no one had heard. Now you need to rest. Your forehead is swollen. Sleep in my room. I'll take the couch. But Grandma, no buts. Go to bed. He kissed my forehead and went to the bedroom. I sat alone in the living room, staring at the images of my bruised grandson on my phone. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened a drawer and took out an old leather notebook, my old case journal from when I was still on the force. Inside were numbers, notes, and old contacts. I searched for one name, Letitia Donovan. Letitia had been my partner for over 10 years at the department. Younger than me, tough, sharp, After I retired, she opened her own private investigation firm. We hadn't spoken much since, but if anyone could help me, it was her. I dialed the number. After 4 rings, she picked up. "Hello." Her voice was raspy, still half asleep. "It's me, Melissa Carter." A faint gasp. "My God, how long has it been since I heard your voice?" "What time is it?" "Around 6:30 a.m. Sorry for calling so early, but I need help urgent. Talk to me." I told her everything from Matthew's call to what he overheard about Vanessa's plan. I told her about the photos, the bruises, how Adrian had been manipulated. When I finished, Letitia let out a low whistle. "This woman's a pro, Melissa. Not your typical evil stepmother, she's a seasoned con artist." "That's what I thought. I need a full background check. Full name, date of birth, everything." "Vanessa Cortez, 32 years old, according to your son, married for 5 years." "That's enough to start. Give me 2 days. I'll dig into her background, past marriages, finances. If she's got dirt, I'll find it." "Thank you, Let." "Don't thank me yet. I've got a feeling this one's big. And if I'm right, we'll need more than goodwill to deal with her." "I know. But first, we need to know what we're up against." I hung up, looking around my small apartment, old furniture, family photos, the wooden cross above the door. This house wasn't worth millions like Vanessa thought, but to me, it was worth my whole life, every drop of sweat, every sleepless night. And she thought she could just take it, manipulate my son, hurt my grandson, and wait for me to die like waiting for a check to clear? I walked to the window. The sky outside was painted pink and gold. A new day was beginning, and so was my war. Vanessa had no idea I wasn't some frail old woman waiting to die. I was Melissa Carter, retired police lieutenant. I'd faced drug dealers, killers, and criminals far worse than her. Vanessa had declared war, and I would make sure she lost it completely. The investigation had just begun, but what I discovered about Vanessa made it clear Matthew and I weren't her first victims. 2 days later, Letitia arrived at my apartment at 9 a.m., carrying a thick folder and the look I knew well, the look of someone who'd uncovered something terrible. "You'd better sit down before I start." I poured coffee while Matthew showered. Over the past 2 days, he'd improved. The swelling on his forehead had gone down, though the scar would remain a mark of Vanessa's cruelty. We sat at the table. Letitia opened the folder, spreading out documents, photos, copies of records. Her real name is Vanessa Jimenez Ruiz, born in Texas. 34 years old, not 32 like she claimed. First lie. She never went to private school, just a public high school, no college record. Worked as a waitress, event staff, then dealer in illegal casinos across several states. Letitia laid out a photo. Vanessa, years younger, maybe 23 or 24, standing next to an older man. Her first husband, Robert Ferris, owner of a chain of construction supply stores. Widower, 2 grown children. Married 2 years. He died of a heart attack. Vanessa inherited everything worth nearly $500,000. The children sued but lost. "And the kids?" I asked. "One lives in California. The other once filed a harassment complaint against Vanessa, but later withdrew it." When I called to ask why, she said, "That woman is dangerous. I want nothing to do with her." A chill went through me. Letitia set down another photo. Second husband Fernando Alvarez, textile businessman from Colorado, 58, also a widower. Married Vanessa when she was 27. A year and a half later, he fell down the stairs, was in a coma for 3 weeks, and died. She sold everything and made over $600,000. No investigation. The home's cameras were broken that night, just like your son's house. My heartbeat thundered. Is there more? Yes. Letitia pulled out another file. Third husband, John Vega, retired civil engineer, 62. Married Vanessa when she was 30. He didn't die, but his son, Paul Vega, 26, disappeared 6 months after the wedding. Sent a text saying he was going abroad to take a break. No one's heard from him in 4 years. John became depressed, signed power of attorney to Vanessa. She put him in a nursing home, sold all the properties, and pocketed more than $700,000. I held my head in my hands. Paul, he might have been. No one knows. But the pattern is clear. Vanessa targets older men with money and children. The children either die or vanish. She drains the estate, then disappears. My chest tightened. And now it's my son's turn. Exactly, Letitia said. Adrian fits perfectly. Widower, teenage son, and a mother who owns property. She can't touch you directly while you're alive, but she can manipulate your son into inheriting, then selling the house. And Matthew, he's the only obstacle. If she can get him sent to a correctional facility or cut off his inheritance, the path is clear. Letitia pulled out more papers. She's got an accomplice, a man named Germano Ochoa, an attorney. He was involved in all 3 marriages, handled wills, power of attorney, property sales. They split the profits 50-50. We traced the transactions, large sums transferred to a joint account in the Cayman Islands after each inheritance. I gripped my coffee cup tightly. Vanessa wasn't just a con artist, she was a predator. And now, my son and grandson were her next prey. The evidence wasn't enough for court yet, but it was enough to start a formal investigation. I heard the bathroom door open. Matthew came out, hair damp, wearing one of my spare shirts. When he saw Letitia, he hesitated. Good morning. Morning, Matthew. I'm Letitia, your grandma's friend. He nodded, cautious, glancing at the pile of files on the table. That's about Vanessa, isn't it? I looked at Letitia, and she gave a small nod. I decided he deserved to know the truth. Sit down, sweetheart. I told him everything, every marriage, every suspicious death, every disappearance. His face grew pale. His hands began to tremble. So, she killed them? We don't have concrete proof yet, Letitia said, but everything lines up too perfectly to be coincidence, Matthew whispered. Then I'll be next. She wants me gone like Paul. That won't happen, I said firmly, taking his hand. Now we know who she really is, and we'll stop her. But how? Dad won't believe us. He thinks you're just trying to break them apart. I don't need your father to believe me. I need evidence, something no one can deny. Letitia leaned back. What are you planning, Melissa? I think Vanessa's clever, but not as clever as she thinks. She made a mistake attacking Matthew. She got overconfident. She believes a few fake bruises and some lies will cover her tracks, but she left something behind. What? The silver candle holder. Matthew said she hid it. It has to still be somewhere in that house with her fingerprints and maybe even his blood on it. But we can't enter that house without a warrant, Letitia said. I gave a faint smile. We don't need one. Matthew can, he lives there too. He has every right to go in and get his things. Matthew's eyes widened. You want me to go back there? Only for a few hours. You'll say you're picking up clothes and school books. While you're there, find the candle. But you won't go alone. I unlocked my phone, pulled up an app, and showed the screen to Letitia. A micro camera, the size of a button. We can sew it into his shirt, it streams live to my phone. Letitia smiled. You haven't lost your edge. I never did, I said. I just put it away for a while. We spent the whole morning planning every detail. Letitia handled the equipment. I would call Adrian and ask for permission for Matthew to collect his belongings. When Matthew was inside, we'd wait outside, watching every second, but the risk was still high. If Vanessa suspected anything, she could hurt him or worse. Grandma, Matthew said, reading the worry in my eyes, I want to do this. Not just for me, for Paul, and everyone she's ever hurt. I looked into his eyes, not those of a frightened boy anymore, but of a young man filled with courage. All right, but you follow the plan exactly. If you sense danger, get out immediately. Understand? I understand. That afternoon, I called Adrian. He answered after 3 rings. What is it, Mom? Matthew needs to pick up his clothes and school materials. He'll stop by tomorrow. Silence stretched between us. He's coming alone? Yes. It's his home too, isn't? Or did you forget? Fine. Just tell him to be quick. Vanessa doesn't want to see him. He won't stay long. I hung up before he could speak again. That evening, Letitia brought over a few button-sized cameras. We sewed one onto the front of Matthew's shirt and another on his shoulder. I tested the feed on my phone. Both video and audio were crystal clear. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., I said. Vanessa will be home. She doesn't work Tuesdays. Adrian will be at the office. Perfect. Matthew nodded. Even though he tried to look calm, I saw his hands tremble slightly at dinner. That night, I went to his room. He was lying on his back, staring at the ceiling. Can't sleep? I'm scared, Grandma. Not of Vanessa. I'm scared of what I might see. What if my dad really is living with a murderer? I sat on the edge of the bed and brushed his hair from his forehead. Whatever happens tomorrow, we'll face it together. You're never alone. Not while ever. I'm alive. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, more than anything. He closed his eyes and drifted to sleep. I stayed there, listening to his steady breathing. I thought about all the risks, every possible disaster. But another thought steadied me. Vanessa had underestimated us. She'd never imagined the boy she abused would find the strength to fight back, nor that an old woman who once hunted criminals still had fight left in her. Tomorrow, the snake would show its fangs, but we already had the antidote. The next day, Matthew walked into that house, wearing the hidden camera. What we recorded made my blood run cold and gave us the evidence we needed to destroy Vanessa. At exactly 2:45, Matthew stood before the mirror in my living room, adjusting his shirt. The camera buttons were nearly invisible. I checked the signal one last time. Clear image, clear sound. Ready, ready. Letitia was already parked half a block away from Adrian's house. If anything went wrong, we'd rush in. When you're there, I said, resting a hand on his shoulder, act natural. Go to your room and pack your things. If you see the candle or any other evidence, just record it, don't touch it. Don't give her a chance to accuse you of stealing. What if she loses her temper? Then get out right away. I pulled him into a hug. He smelled of soap and fear, but underneath, there was determination. Let's go, Letitia said from the doorway. It's time. I sat in the back seat, eyes locked on the phone screen showing the live feed. Letitia drove silently, her knuckles tight on the steering wheel. When we reached Adrian's neighborhood, a 2-story house with a front yard and automatic gate, my heart pounded. Adrian had bought it with his first wife's insurance money. Once a home, now a prison. Matthew stepped out and walked to the front door. The camera shook slightly with each step. He rang the bell. The door opened. Vanessa appeared, black sweatpants, tight pink top, hair pulled into a high ponytail. No makeup, yet her face radiated cold calculation. Her eyes scanned Matthew like a predator sizing up prey. "So you came," she said flatly. "Didn't think you'd have the guts. I'm just here to get my stuff. Dad said it was okay. Your dad says a lot of things. Get in, make it quick. I don't have all day." Matthew walked in. The camera captured the marble floor, the polished furniture, the perfect decor, everything immaculate, everything fake. "Go to your room. You've got 30 minutes, Vanessa said, slamming the door. Matthew went upstairs. My chest tightened when I saw his room. Everything was trashed, posters torn, desk overturned, books scattered, bed stripped bare as if a storm had swept through. "Oh my God!" Letitia gasped at the sight. I heard Matthew's trembling voice. "What happened to my room?" Vanessa's voice echoed from below. "You left it like a pigsty, so clean it up. Serves you right." Matthew bent down, picking up clothes and stuffing them into his backpack. Then the camera showed something that made my throat close, a broken photo frame on the floor, the picture of him with his mother before she died. A shoe print marked the glass. Matthew wiped it off gently and slipped it into his bag. "Stay calm, sweetheart," I whispered to the screen. "Stay calm." After packing his clothes, he opened his desk drawer to grab his notebooks. I saw something metallic glinting among the torn pages. "Wait," I murmured. "Zoom in." Matthew brushed the papers aside, and there it was, the old silver candle holder, heavy, its base smeared with dried dark stains blood. "Jesus," Letitia breathed. "He found it. That's the one," I said quietly. Vanessa's voice rang from the stairs. "You done yet? You've been up there 15 minutes. "Almost," Matthew replied, his voice impressively steady. He pulled out his phone, took several quick photos, then placed the candle holder back where he found it and closed the drawer. "Good job," I whispered. Matthew slung his backpack over his shoulder and went downstairs. Vanessa stood at the bottom, arms crossed. "All done?" "Yes." "Good. Now get out and don't come back. This house is mine too," he said. Vanessa let out a sharp laugh. "Yours? This is your father's house, and I'm his wife. You're nothing but a mistake he's been forced to live with for years." "My mom wasn't a mistake," Matthew said, his tone firm. Vanessa's eyes darkened, her voice turning to ice. "Your mother's dead, and that old hag of a grandma of yours will be soon enough. A few more years, and she's done. When she dies, your father will inherit that filthy little house, will sell it, move away, and you'll be sent to boarding school where you'll finally learn to keep your mouth shut and know your place. So that's why you beat up weaker kids? To feel powerful?" Matthew asked, his voice shaking but his eyes steady. Vanessa took a step closer. The camera caught her face, clearly rage flaring in her eyes. "I never touched you, you liar. You attacked me. Say that again, and I'll make sure you rot in juvenile detention. I know the truth, and so does my grandma." "Your grandma is nothing," Vanessa hissed. "Just a stupid old woman who doesn't know when to quit. But she'll learn. Everyone learns eventually. And then a voice cut through the tension, freezing my blood. What are you two talking about? Adrian had just walked in, still in his office suit, tie loosened, his face weary and older than his years. Honey, Vanessa said instantly, her tone switching to sweet concern. You're home early. Matthew was just leaving. Adrian looked from his son to his wife. Something in his expression told me he'd heard more than she realized. What's this about boarding school? I was only telling him that if he kept misbehaving, we might have to consider it, Vanessa said quickly. She said when my grandma dies, you'll sell her house, Matthew said clearly, his voice trembling. She said it word for word. Liar, Vanessa screamed. Adrian, see? He's making up stories again to turn you against me. I'm not lying, and you know it, Dad. Adrian rubbed his face, looking shattered. Matthew, leave. Dad, please, just listen. I said leave. His shout echoed through the house. Matthew stepped back, eyes red. I clenched the phone so hard I heard the plastic crack. Fine, Matthew whispered. I'll go. But when you want the truth, you'll know where to find me. The door closed behind him. On the screen, Adrian and Vanessa remained in the living room. Vanessa stepped closer, resting her hand on his chest. Sweetheart, you're too stressed. The boy is exhausting you. Maybe we should— I need some air, Adrian interrupted, stepping away and heading upstairs without another word. Vanessa stood still, then stared down at her phone. She dialed a number. Germano, it's me. We need to move faster. The kid's becoming a problem. I know, just give me another week and it'll all be done. That old woman won't know what hit her. She hung up, and I knew we were running out of time. Matthew came back to the car, sat in the back seat. His eyes were full of tears, but none fell. I'm sorry, Grandma. I tried. I hugged him tightly. Don't apologize. You did perfectly. We've got everything we need. Letitia started the engine, driving us away. I replayed the footage. Everything was there, the silver candle holder, the threats, Vanessa's words about selling my house, her call to Germano. But what broke my heart most was the image of my son, his empty eyes, his lost soul. He wasn't the boy I'd raised anymore. That night, after Matthew was asleep, I stepped onto the balcony. The city lights glittered below, cold wind stinging my skin, or maybe it was the chill inside me. I thought of Adrian as a little boy, the child who used to run into my arms after work, saying, Mom, I missed you all day. I remembered sleepless nights by his bedside when he had fevers, the times I defended him when kids teased him for not having a father. I had given everything for him. And now, in just a few years, one woman had taken it all. She stole my son's love, turned his eyes cold toward me. Tears filled my eyes as I cried silently so Matthew wouldn't hear. I cried for the son I'd lost, for the years I'd never get back, for the word Mom I'd never hear again. But through the grief, anger rose. Vanessa hadn't just stolen my son, she'd destroyed him, made him betray his own blood. That I would never forgive. I wiped my tears and took a deep breath. At that moment, I knew exactly what I had to do. I would get my son back, no matter how long it took. I would pull him out of her grasp, no matter the cost. I was Melissa Carter, and mothers like me never give up, even when the world turns its back, even when our own children forget who we are. But to save my son, I had to destroy Vanessa first. And to do that, I needed more than recordings. I needed a perfect trap. The next morning, I woke with a mind sharper than ever. No tears, no hesitation, only one goal: to bring down Vanessa Cortez before she tore my family apart. I brewed a strong cup of coffee and opened my old investigation notebook. Letitia would arrive in an hour. Matthew was still sleeping, he needed the rest. I began listing everything we had. Physical evidence, the silver candle holder with Matthew's blood, still in Adrian's house, inaccessible without a warrant. Verbal evidence, the recording of Vanessa's threats, her plan to sell my house, her mention of Germano. History, 3 previous marriages, 2 suspicious deaths, 1 disappearance, millions in inheritance. Accomplice Germano Ochoa, attorney, handled the estate paperwork. But all of it was still circumstantial. A skilled lawyer could twist it all, claim I fabricated it, say the recordings were doctored. I needed something undeniable, Vanessa's own words confessing her crimes. At 8 a.m., sharp, Letitia arrived, carrying 2 cups of coffee and dark circles under her eyes. "What are you planning, Melissa?" "I know that look, it's the same one you had before we cracked a major case." I smiled. "I'm setting a trap. But for her to fall into it, she has to believe I've given up. And how will you do that? By giving her what she wants most." I pulled an envelope from my bag. Inside was a stack of papers I'd spent the night preparing: legal documents, transferring the deed of my house to Adrian, signed by me. Letitia's eyes widened. "You're kidding." "No. The documents are real, but there's a hidden clause: if proven that coercion, threats, or fraud were involved, the contract becomes void. A notary friend of mine drafted it. It looks legitimate, but one slip-up from her, and it collapses." "And how do you plan to make her take the bait?" "I'll call her, say I'm tired, that I don't want to fight anymore. I'll tell her I'm ready to sign the house over to Adrian if she leaves Matthew alone, but she and her lawyer have to come to my home to finalize the paperwork. When they do, I'll record everything, video and audio. People like Vanessa can't resist gloating when they think they've won. That's when she'll slip." Letitia leaned back, nodding slowly. "High risk. What if she figures it out?" "You'll hide in my bedroom, monitoring the live feed on the laptop. I've already installed 4 hidden cameras: living room, dining area, kitchen, and floor lamp. It's all legal, it's my house." "And if she says nothing incriminating and just takes the documents?" "She won't. Someone like Vanessa needs to see her victims broken to feel victorious." Right then, Matthew came out, hair messy, eyes puffy. "Grandma, what's going on?" I explained the plan. His face paled, then slowly steadied. "What do you need me to do?" "You'll stay at Letitia's that day. I don't want you here, it's too dangerous. But Grandma, no arguments. I need you safe so I can focus." He fell silent. We spent the rest of the day preparing. Letitia installed the hidden cameras and checked the signal. I staged the house to look like it belonged to a frail old woman. Fake hospital bills, pill bottles on the table, a few medical magazines scattered around. I wanted Vanessa to believe I was weak, desperate, ready to surrender. The next morning, I held my phone, my hand trembling slightly as I dialed Adrian's number. He answered. "What do you want now, Mom?" "I need to speak to Vanessa. It's important." I heard footsteps, then her voice came through, smooth and sharp. "Well, what a surprise, Melissa. What's this about?" "We need to talk about the house, about Matthew, about everything. I don't think there's anything left to say." I forced my voice to sound tired. "I'm exhausted, Vanessa. I just want my grandson to be safe and my son to have peace. If I have to make concessions to get that, I will." I could almost see the smirk forming on her face. "Concessions? What kind?" "The house. I know Adrian will inherit it sooner or later, but I'm sick. The doctor says my heart is weak, maybe a few months left, at best a year. I don't want to die and leave legal trouble behind for my son." "How thoughtful of you," she said with a sneer. "I'm willing to sign the deed over to Adrian right now, on one condition. You and he must drop all charges against Matthew and let him stay with me for whatever time I have left." There was silence on the other end, then muffled whispering. She was probably consulting Germano. Finally, Vanessa said, "When do you want to do this?" "Tomorrow, 3 p.m. at my home. You can bring your lawyer if you'd like. I want everything legal and final." "Why the sudden change of heart, Melissa?" Vanessa asked. "Because I'm tired," I said slowly. "I don't have the strength to fight anymore. My son has made his choice, and it wasn't me." Saying those words cut deep, because they were true. 3 o'clock tomorrow then," Vanessa replied sharply. "I hope you're not playing games, because if you are, you'll regret it." "I'm not playing any games. I just want peace." I hung up, my heart racing. Letitia placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did great, Melissa." It sounded real. Because part of it was, I sighed, "I am tired." And Adrian, he really did choose her. "But we're not going to let her win," Letitia said. "We'll make her lose everything." We spent the afternoon reviewing every detail of the plan: where I'd sit, where they'd sit, which questions would make them talk more, how to guide the conversation so they'd grow overconfident. That night, I went into Matthew's room. He was lying there, staring at the ceiling. "You're worried, Grandma?" he asked. "Yes, but not afraid, angry. And that anger will give me strength tomorrow. What if something goes wrong?" "Nothing will. Trust me." He sat up and hugged me. "I always trust you. You're the strongest person I know. You're the reason I haven't given up." The next morning, Letitia arrived early. We checked the cameras one last time. Everything was perfect. At 1 o'clock, I drove Matthew to Letitia's house. Her husband, a calm, trustworthy man, would watch him. "Don't go out for any reason," I said. "And keep your phone with you. You be careful, too." "I always am." Letitia and I returned to my apartment. She went to my bedroom, opened her laptop, put on her headset, ready to record. I sat in the living room, waiting. At 5 minutes to 3, the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, stood up, adjusted my gray blouse and black skirt. I'd chosen clothes that made me look older and frailer. When I opened the door, there they were, Vanessa in a beige business dress and heels, her gaze cold. Next to her stood a man in his 50s, neatly dressed in a dark suit, carrying a leather briefcase. Germano Ochoa, without a doubt. Behind them was Adrian, tense and uncomfortable. "Please, come in," I said softly. Vanessa entered first, glancing around my apartment with disdain. Germano followed, his eyes sharp and lawyerly. Adrian came last, avoiding my gaze. "Have a seat," I said, gesturing to the sofa and dining table. Vanessa sat in the main chair as if she owned the place. Germano took the seat beside her. Adrian chose one farther away, head down. I sat across from them. The cameras began recording. "Thank you for coming," I began. "I know this isn't easy for anyone." Vanessa smiled the smile of a predator who believes she's already won. "Oh, Melissa, I always knew you'd come to your senses eventually. The game had begun. The trap was set. Now I just had to see if the snake was arrogant enough to crawl into it. Germano opened his briefcase, carefully placing a stack of papers on the table. His voice was dry and professional. "Mrs. Carter, I understand you wish to transfer ownership of the property at 247 Maple Avenue to your son, Adrian Carter, correct?" "Correct," I replied, keeping my tone weary. "Very well. I've prepared the documents. Please sign here, here, and here." I pretended to review them, but was really watching their faces. Adrian stared at the floor, avoiding eye contact. Vanessa's eyes glimmered with excitement. Germano gave her a subtle look, signaling her to keep calm. "These papers," I said slowly, "state that I'm voluntarily giving the house away, without compensation, correct?" "Correct," Germano confirmed. "A legal gift transfer." "And what about Matthew?" I asked. "You're withdrawing the charges, right?" That was the agreement. Vanessa crossed her legs, her tone dripping with condescension. "Melissa, let's be realistic. Your grandson assaulted an adult woman. That's a serious offense. I can't just overlook that." "But you said—" "I didn't say anything." She cut me off with a cold smile. "You're the one offering the house. I'm just here to witness your generosity." I looked at Adrian. "You agree with that? You're fine sending your son to juvenile detention?" He glanced up, shame flickering in his eyes before he looked down again. "Adrian trusts me," Vanessa said, placing her hand possessively over his. "He knows I only want what's best for our family. Matthew's been a problem since the day I entered your lives." "A problem?" I repeated. "He's just a child. A disrespectful, manipulative child just like you," Vanessa sneered. Germano cleared his throat, but she didn't stop. "Do you know how many lies he's told to make Adrian doubt me?" "Maybe they weren't lies," I said quietly. Vanessa's eyes darkened. "What are you implying?" "Nothing. Just that children usually tell the truth when they're afraid." Vanessa let out a dry laugh. "Oh, Melissa, still clinging to drama. Just like always. Just like your grandson. But it doesn't matter now, does it? You'll sign. You'll stay here until fate takes its course, and the boy will learn discipline somewhere more suitable." "Vanessa," Germano warned softly, but she was lost in her arrogance. "What?" she snapped. "I'm just being honest. Look at you, sick, lonely, defeated. If you'd surrendered sooner, I wouldn't have had to work so hard." "Work hard?" I asked innocently. "That's right," she said, leaning back like a queen. "Do you know how much effort it took to make Adrian forget about you? Every blocked call, every forgotten birthday, every time he didn't visit, it was all me." Adrian's head jerked up. "What did you just say?" "Oh, come on, darling," Vanessa mocked. "Don't pretend to be surprised. You knew I managed your schedule. You thought I was just helping? I cut her out of your life because she was a burden and I succeeded. Now you can barely look at her." I saw something break inside my son's eyes. Germano jumped to his feet. "Vanessa, we should get back to the signatures." "Sit down, Germano," she snapped. He obeyed, pale as paper. "Do you know what the best part of all this is, Melissa?" Vanessa continued, her voice triumphant. "When you die, and with that weak heart, I'd say it won't be long, we'll sell this apartment for about $4.5 million. I already have a buyer, a developer who wants to renovate the whole building." $4.5 million, huh?" I echoed. That's right. With that money and our savings, Adrian and I will move to Florida and open a small seaside hotel. The land's already lined up. And Matthew? I asked. He'll go to military school. Once he turns 18, he's no longer our problem. That's enough, Vanessa, Adrian shouted, jumping to his feet. What the hell are you talking about? We never discussed any of this. Sweetheart, Vanessa said with a mocking smile. You didn't have to. I handle everything, like I always have. I handled your mother, your son, our future. You handled my mother? Adrian said hoarsely. Someone had to. She never knew when to let go. Mothers like her, they're toxic, clingy. I bit my lip to stop myself from crying. I needed her to keep talking. And what about the silver candle holder? I asked softly. You handled that too? Vanessa laughed, her eyes glinting. Oh, that? Brilliant, wasn't it? The kid came home late. I was sick of his attitude, those judgmental eyes, so I taught him a lesson. One hard hit with that silver candle holder my dear late mother-in-law gave me. Ironic, isn't it? Adrian went pale. You hit him first? Of course. Then I threw myself against the wall, some bruises in the right places, a few well-timed tears, and as usual, you believed me. Vanessa, Germano tried to interrupt, but she snapped. Shut up. Germano, we're almost done here. She'll sign, we'll get the house, and in a few months, we'll be in Florida counting money just like the plan. Just like the plan you had with Robert, I said coldly. And Fernando. And John. Vanessa's face froze. Germano shot up. That's enough. We're leaving. Sit down, Germano, I said, my voice longer, frail but firm, authoritative, the voice of a police lieutenant with 35 years of service, because this is just beginning. I walked to the bedroom door and opened it. Letitia stepped out, laptop in hand. Good afternoon, she said clearly. I'm Letitia Donovan, private investigator. The entire conversation you just had has been recorded high-definition video and audio. Vanessa's face drained of color. That's illegal. Completely legal, I replied. This is my home. I have every right to record what happens on my property. And you've both just confessed to multiple crimes: coercion, fraud, assault of a minor, conspiracy. Germano was already halfway to the door, trying to flee, but Letitia blocked his path. If I were you, I wouldn't try that, she said coldly. 2 police officers are waiting outside. They're former colleagues of Lieutenant Melissa Carter. That was true. I'd called Suarez this morning, and he'd agreed to stand by nearby in case things turned violent. Vanessa jumped up, furious. You'll never make this hold up in court. You set us up. Yes, I did, I said calmly. And you walked right into it because you're arrogant, because you think you're untouchable, because you thought an old woman like me couldn't fight back. I dialed a number. Lieutenant Soares, you can come up now. We heard footsteps in the hall. Moments later, 2 uniformed officers entered with Soares, guns holstered. Lieutenant Carter, he greeted me with a nod. Did you get what we needed? Everything, Letitia answered, raising the laptop. Full confession, threats, child assault, and conspiracy to defraud. Soares turned to them. Vanessa Cortez, Germano Ochoa, you're both under arrest for the crimes just stated. This was entrapment, Vanessa screamed. Adrian, say something. Tell them to stop. Everyone turned to my son, He sat there with his hands over his face, shoulders shaking. When he finally spoke, his voice was broken. "Everything you told me, about my mother, about Matthew, it was all lies, wasn't it?" I saw real fear in Vanessa's eyes. "Sweetheart, no. I did it all for us." "You used me," Adrian said, lifting his tear-streaked face. "You turned me against my mother. You hurt my son all for money." "Not just money," Vanessa pleaded. "I wanted a better life for us." "Liar!" Adrian shouted, standing up. "You never loved me. You just wanted the inheritance like the others before me." The officers handcuffed Vanessa as she thrashed and screamed his name. "Adrian, please, don't let them take me. I'm your wife." But Adrian turned away. Germano stayed silent, holding out his wrists to be cuffed, knowing the game was over. As they were led out of the apartment, Soares turned back to me. "Melissa, you'll need to come in tomorrow to make a statement. It's going to be a long process, but with this evidence, they won't walk free." "I'll be there," I said. When the door closed behind them, only Adrian, Letitia, and I remained in the room. The silence was heavy, almost unbearable. Adrian looked at me, and for the first time in 5 years, I saw real awareness in his eyes. "Mom," his voice trembled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to run to him, to hold him, but something inside me stopped. Too many years of hurt, of being forgotten, of being left behind." "No, Adrian," I said softly. "Not yet. An apology can't erase 5 years of silence. It can't undo the fact that you believed a stranger over your own mother. It can't erase that you let her hurt your son." He lowered his head, tears streaming down his face. "You're right. I don't deserve forgiveness." "It's not about deserving," I said. "It's about whether you're willing to make it right. And that takes time, a lot of time." I stepped closer, resting my hand against his cheek. "But you're still my son. Even when you forgot me, I never forgot you. We'll rebuild slowly, but if you truly want it, we can." "I do, Mom. I promise." Letitia quietly packed her things, said goodbye, and left. Only Adrian and I remained in the room that had once seen his childhood, the place where we played, celebrated birthdays, and the place he stopped visiting for years. "Where's Matthew?" he asked. "Safe, staying with Letitia and her husband." "I need to see him. I need to tell him I'm sorry." His voice broke. "You will," I replied. "But first, you have to understand. Matthew suffered for months, and you didn't see it. Not because you couldn't, but because you didn't want to." "I know," he whispered. "And I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life." "Good. Because guilt will remind you never to make this mistake again." I held him. He buried his face in my shoulder, crying like he did when he was little. Even after breaking my heart, he was still my son, and mothers like me, no matter how much we hurt, still love their children. Justice had only begun. But the real test wasn't seeing Vanessa pay for her crimes, it was rebuilding the family she had shattered piece by piece. A week later, I sat in a restaurant downtown. I'd chosen the place carefully, the Willow Garden, a spacious spot with a patio, famous for its traditional food and quiet atmosphere. The tables were far enough apart for privacy, but close enough for witnesses to what was about to happen. Letitia sat at a nearby table, her laptop and recording devices hidden well. Soares was there too, though off duty. I'd even invited a notary, Mr. Ramirez, 60 years old, who had worked with me on many cases before. But the most important invitation I'd sent 3 days earlier, when I called Adrian. "You need to come to this meeting," I said. "Bring Vanessa. She's under house arrest," Adrian replied. "Germano got her released on bail." "I know. That's why I need her there. Tell her I have an offer. Something to settle before court. You're serious?" "Completely." 3 p.m., Saturday, at the Willow Garden. Just the three of us, you, her, and me. Adrian hesitated, then agreed. Now, I sat waiting under a large tree, a glass of lemonade and a slice of cake in front of me. My hands were steady, my breathing calm, but my heart pounded like a drum. They arrived at 3:05. Adrian wore a white shirt and jeans, looking thin and worn. Vanessa walked beside him, chin high, wearing a black suit and sunglasses, an ankle monitor glinting above her heel. They sat across from me. Vanessa took off her glasses, her eyes half furious, half curious. "Here we are, Melissa. You said you had an offer." "That's right," I replied evenly. "But before we begin, there's someone I want you to meet," I signaled. Soares approached, followed by Mr. Ramirez. Vanessa stiffened. "What is this?" "A meeting to end everything," I said. "Please, have a seat, Lieutenant Soares, Mr. Ramirez." They sat down. Adrian looked around, confused. Vanessa gripped her hands tightly. "Vanessa Cortez," I began, or should I say, Vanessa Jimenez. "Over the past 2 weeks, we've investigated your life and found some very interesting things. I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, you know. Let me remind you." I pulled a tablet from my bag, turned it on, and placed it on the table. On the screen was a photo of an older man. "Robert Ferris, 60 years old when he died of sudden cardiac arrest. You inherited nearly $500,000. Legal, perhaps. But his medical records show no history of heart disease before he married you. Afterward, he began suffering dizziness, nausea, and fatigue, classic signs of digitalis poisoning." Adrian went pale. "Poisoning?" Soares explained. "Digitalis comes from the foxglove plant. In small doses, it weakens. In larger ones, it stops the heart." "That's absurd," Vanessa shouted, but her voice quivered. "There's no proof." "True, because Robert was cremated," I said. "But we have testimony from his daughter, Patricia Ferris." I nodded toward Letitia. She pressed a button, and a woman's voice echoed from the restaurant speakers. "I always believed Vanessa killed my father. He was healthy until he married her. Then he got weaker, lost his appetite, grew tired, and one night collapsed and died in the living room. She cried at the funeral, but I saw her counting money after selling my father's house." Vanessa shot up. "That woman was always jealous of me." "Sit down," I ordered, my voice sharp. I switched to another photo. "This is Fernando Alvarez, 58 years old, died falling down the stairs 3 weeks after marrying you. Strangely, the security camera failed that night. Also strange, he had just updated his will to leave everything to you." "That was an accident," Vanessa protested. "A convenient one, especially since he'd just discovered the funds you were secretly transferring overseas," I continued. Adrian turned to Soares. "Is that true?" "It is," Soares said. "We have records showing $150,000 sent to a Cayman Islands account under the names Vanessa and Germano Ochoa." "Lies!" Vanessa screamed. "No," I said, opening another photo. a smiling young man at his graduation. Paul Vega, 26 years old, son of your third husband, vanished 6 months after you married his father. He supposedly sent a message saying he was leaving the country, then disappeared, but we found him. The room went silent. Even the clinking of silverware stopped. What? What do you mean? Vanessa stammered. Letitia brought out another laptop and played a video. On the screen appeared a thin man with an unshaven face, sitting in a hospital room. My name is Paul Vega, he said. 4 years ago, Vanessa, my father's wife, drugged my coffee. When I woke up, I was in a strange place. A man named Germano told me if I went back to the U.S. or contacted my father, he'd have an accident. They gave me money, a fake passport, and forced me to leave. I've been hiding until Detective Donovan found me and told me Vanessa had done it again to another family. I knew I had to speak out. Vanessa collapsed back into her chair, her face drained of color. No, that's impossible. Paul is now under witness protection, Soares said. He'll testify in court. With his statement, along with the recordings, bank records, and testimonies from previous families, Vanessa, you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. And Germano Ochoa too, I added. He's confessed to everything. When we showed him the evidence, he signed a deal with the prosecution in exchange for a reduced sentence. He described every detail, every plan, every crime. Adrian buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking. Oh God, oh God. Vanessa glared at me with pure hatred. You've always been the meddling kind, haven't you? No, I replied calmly. I'm just a mother protecting her family, and a former lieutenant who knows exactly what kind of person she's dealing with. I stood. Mr. Ramirez pulled a folder from his briefcase. The documents you signed at my house are void, I said. The coercion clause nullifies them immediately. That house is still mine, and Matthew is now under my legal guardianship. Adrian signed the papers yesterday. I turned to my son. He nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks. Vanessa Cortez, Soares said, standing, his voice firm. You are charged with fraud, extortion, murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit murder. Your house arrest is hereby revoked. Officers, 2 police officers approached. Vanessa struggled as they cuffed her. Adrian, help me. They're wrong. Adrian looked at her. Tears still fell, but his voice was steady. I can't help you, Vanessa, because it's all true, and I was too blind to see it. Vanessa was dragged away, screaming, cursing, threatening. No one responded. The other diners only watched, a mix of shock and curiosity on their faces. When silence returned, Adrian turned to me. Why did you have to do this here, in public? Why not at the police station? I looked at him. Because you needed to see her for who she really is, in the light, with evidence, with witnesses. You needed her last image to be not a poor victim, but a criminal cornered, paying for what she's done. Adrian nodded slowly. What now? Now comes the hard part, I said, sitting back down. Rebuilding our family, healing the wounds, making up for lost time. You think that's possible? I don't know, I said, but we'll try. Because you're still my son. And Matthew deserves to have his father back. Soares and Ramirez stood, shook my hand, and left. Letitia packed up her equipment, gave me a mischievous smile, and headed out of the restaurant. Only Adrian and I remained, sitting under the tree's shade where sunlight filtered through, a half-finished glass of lemonade, and an untouched slice of cake between us. "Can I see Matthew today?" he asked. "If he wants to see you, yes. If not, you'll have to wait and keep waiting until he's ready. That's what fathers do, Adrian. They wait, they try, they don't give up. Just like you never truly lost your mother, and I never gave up on you." I paid the bill, and we walked out together. The evening sun painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. The city hummed with honking cars, street vendors' voices, and music from a nearby cafe. It was an ordinary day for everyone else, but for us, it was the start of a new life, the first day without Vanessa poisoning everything around us, the first day of healing. The road ahead would be long and painful, but at least we'd walk it together. 3 months later, I sat in the courtroom of the county courthouse. The room smelled of old wood and paper. The polished wooden benches were packed reporters, onlookers, and families of Vanessa's victims. Matthew sat to my right, wearing a new suit we'd bought just for this day. Adrian sat to my left. Over the past weeks, father and son had slowly learned how to mend what was broken. It wasn't easy. There were tears, silences, difficult conversations, but they were trying, and that was enough for me. Letitia sat behind us, next to Soares. Both had worked tirelessly to piece this case together. The doors opened. 2 officers escorted Vanessa inside. The proud woman she once was now wore an orange prison jumpsuit, her hair tied back carelessly, her face pale and sunken. There was no arrogance left in her, eyes only bitterness and defeat. Germano followed, head bowed, looking like a man who had given up. "All rise," the bailiff announced. The Honorable Judge Marianne Sanders presiding. She entered around 55 years old, short silver hair, sharp gaze. She sat down, her calm voice filling the room. "We are here to sentence the defendants in the case of the state versus Vanessa Jimenez Ruiz, also known as Vanessa Cortez, and Germano Ochoa. The defendants have been found guilty of aggravated fraud, extortion, murder, kidnapping, aiding and abetting, and conspiracy to commit murder." The judge's words echoed through the courtroom, each one like the strike of a gavel. "Before sentencing, do any of the victims wish to speak?" The prosecutor looked at me. I stood. I had written and rewritten my statement for weeks, but when I spoke, it came straight from my heart. "Your Honor, my name is Melissa Carter. I served in law enforcement for 35 years. In my native life, I've faced many criminals, but none like Vanessa Jimenez. She didn't just destroy property or steal money, she destroyed families. She broke the trust between parents and children. When lies weren't enough, she chose violence." I looked directly at Vanessa. "My grandson will carry his scars for life because of her. My son lost 5 years with me because of her. And other families lost even more. But what makes her truly dangerous isn't her actions, it's the emptiness inside her. No remorse, no empathy. Even now, she feels no regret. And that's what makes her truly frightening." I sat down. A young man stood up, Paul Vega, the first time I'd met him in person. He looked healthier than he did in the video, but his eyes still carried the same darkness. "Your Honor, Vanessa stole 4 years of my life. She made me stay away from my father, who died never knowing the truth. He died believing I abandoned him. I never got to say goodbye." His voice broke. Paul sat down and buried his face in his hands. Next came Patricia Ferris, then 2 relatives of Fernando Alvarez. They spoke about pain, loss, and long nights filled with tears. Finally, the judge turned to Vanessa. Does the defendant wish to make a statement before sentencing? Vanessa rose slowly. For a moment, I thought she might say something genuine, but she didn't. "This is all a setup," she said coldly. "I'm the victim of jealous people. I did nothing wrong. One day, the truth will come out." The judge looked at her, voice like steel. "Mrs. Jimenez, in 25 years on the bench, I've seen many criminals. Some show remorse, some at least have the sense to remain silent. But you still see yourself as a victim. That tells me you've learned nothing." She opened the file in front of her. "Vanessa Jimenez Ruiz. You are sentenced to 12 years in prison for 3 counts of fraud, 6 additional years for extortion, 15 years for rebettor, intentional homicide, 20 years for kidnapping, and 5 years for aiding and abetting. Total, 58 years in prison, to be served consecutively. Furthermore, you are ordered to repay all damages to your victims, and any property gained through fraudulent means will be seized and returned to its rightful owners." The judge turned to Germano. "Germano Ochoa, for your full cooperation with the prosecution, confession of guilt, and limited role as legal counsel, you are sentenced to 25 years in prison and permanently stripped of your law license. You are also required to compensate all victims for damages." Germano nodded without emotion. "This court is adjourned." The gavel struck, echoing through the room. The 2 defendants were led away. Vanessa turned back, searching for Adrian's eyes. But my son didn't look at her. He was holding Matthew tightly, the son he had almost lost forever. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded us. I read a short, prepared statement with Letitia beside me. "Today, justice has been served not only for my family, but for every family Vanessa Jimenez destroyed. I hope this sentence sends a clear message. No one is above the law, and deceit, manipulation, or violence always come at a price." I didn't answer any questions. I simply walked away with Matthew and Adrian. That evening, the 3 of us had dinner in my small apartment. I cooked stewed chicken with okra, white rice, and mashed potatoes. Matthew ate heartily, more than I'd seen in months. Adrian helped me pour water and clear the dishes, small gestures, but enough to show he was trying to be part of the family again. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" I asked Matthew as we washed dishes together. "Relieved but sad too," he said. "Sad about what?" "Because Dad wasted so many years with that woman. Because you suffered so much. Because we could have been happy sooner." I gave him a gentle smile. "The past can't be changed, Matthew, but we can learn from it and build something better. Do you think Dad and I can ever be like before?" "No," I said softly, "you won't be like before. But if you both try with all your heart, what you build can be even better." Adrian stood in the kitchen doorway. "Matthew, can I talk to you for a minute?" The boy looked at me. I nodded. Father and son stepped out to the balcony. Through the window, I saw them talking, saw Adrian cry, saw Matthew hug his father tight. After all those years of pain, they were finally starting to heal. 2 weeks later, Adrian surprised me. On Saturday morning, he came by holding a stack of papers. "Mom, I want you to look at this." They were legal documents. I read them carefully. "Are you sure?" "Completely sure." He had sold the house he once shared with Vanessa. The money was divided into 3 parts, one for me, one for Matthew, and the rest to a fund for Vanessa's victims. "That house is full of bad memories," he said. "Every room reminds me how blind I was. I can't stay there anymore. I'll find a small apartment nearby so I can be close to you both. Matthew will live with you while he finishes high school if you're okay with that. But I'll be around. I'll take him to school, watch his games, help with homework. I'll be the father I should have been a long time ago." I hugged him tightly. My son had truly come back. A month later, I received a letter. The sender was Vanessa Jimenez from prison. I hesitated, but Letitia, who was visiting, said, "If you don't want to read it, don't force yourself." But for some reason, I opened it. It was short. "Melissa, you won. You destroyed my life the way I tried to destroy yours. You must feel powerful, but I want you to know, I regret nothing. Every choice I made was because this world gives women like me nothing. I only took what I wanted, and if I could do it again, I would. One day, you'll die, and I'll still be here, remembering how I beat you for years, how I made your son doubt you. Those 5 years are mine. No one can take them back." When I finished reading, Letitia glanced over my shoulder. "She's sick to the very end." "Yes," I said, "but I'm not angry anymore. I just feel sorry for her. A woman so broken she never understood what love truly was, only how to grasp and destroy." I tore the letter into pieces and threw it in the trash. "She can keep those 5 years," I said, "because the rest of my life belongs to my family, and nothing in her hatred can touch that." That night, the 3 of us had dinner together again. Matthew brought his guitar and played songs he'd learned at school. Adrian and I sang along, off-key but laughing. When Matthew began strumming a tune his mother had once taught him, I looked around the small room, the old photos, the scent of coffee and cinnamon, the warm light, and realized something. Vanessa never truly had power over me. Power isn't in money, houses, or manipulation. Power is in the love we give, in the family we nurture with patience. She could rot in her cell, clutching the years she stole from me, but I had something she never would, a family that loves me, a grandson who respects me, and a son who found his way home. That was the real victory. And this story doesn't end with revenge, but with something far stronger: forgiveness, rebirth, and proof that love can heal every wound. 6 months after the sentencing, I woke up to sunlight pouring through the window. It was a May morning. The city smelled of rain and flowers. I lay listening to the sounds of the apartment, clinking dishes, laughter, and 2 male voices talking. Smiling, I slipped on my robe and slippers and walked to the kitchen. The sight almost brought me to tears. Adrian was cooking eggs while Matthew set the table, singing along to the radio. They brewed coffee, sliced fruit, and arranged pastries. "Good morning, Grandma," Matthew chirped. "Happy birthday." I froze. I had forgotten. 69 years old. A lifetime. "You didn't have to do all this." "Of course we did," Adrian laughed. "It's your special day. We had breakfast together." Matthew talked about his math test, proudly showing his score of 90. Adrian told us about his new job at a small construction firm, where the atmosphere was relaxed and the hours reasonable. "I don't want to waste any more time," he said, looking at me. "Money can wait. You and Matthew can't." After breakfast, Matthew handed me a box wrapped in blue paper. "It's from both of us." I opened it. Inside was a photo album, not of old pictures, but new ones from the past 6 months. Matthew playing soccer, Adrian cheering from the stands, the 3 of us eating ice cream in the park, a picture of Adrian holding my hand at a memorial, another of Matthew hugging me after his graduation, and, at the end, A photo of us planting a small cherry tree in the community garden near home. Tears fell as I turned each page. "Do you like it, Grandma?" Matthew asked. "It's perfect, sweetheart, perfect." The last page had a handwritten note from Adrian. "Family isn't just blood, it's the love we choose to give each day. Thank you for never giving up on us. We love you." I cried openly. Adrian hugged me from one side, Matthew from the other. In that little kitchen, I felt something I hadn't in years: complete peace. After a moment, Adrian said, "Mom, there's something I need to tell you. I've been going to therapy twice a week for the past 4 months." I looked at him, surprised. "You never mentioned that." I wanted to be sure it was helping before I did. I needed to understand why I was so blind, why I let Vanessa control me. "And what did you find out?" "That I never really dealt with Matthew's mother's death. I felt guilty for being alive, for being happy afterward. Then Vanessa came along, and I filled that void with anything I could, real or fake. And in doing so, I hurt the people who truly loved me." "Dad," Matthew said softly, "we've already talked about that. I forgave you." "I know, son, but I'm still learning to forgive myself." I placed my hand on his shoulder. "Forgiveness takes time. But the fact that you're facing it and trying to change, that's already a huge step." Adrian nodded. "My therapist told me you've always been my example of strength, Mom. Maybe that's why I never let myself be weak. I thought I had to be strong like you." I smiled. "Real strength isn't never needing help, it's knowing when to ask for it and being brave enough to accept it. And I want you to know, I'm proud of you. Always have been." My words made his eyes glisten. "I'm proud of you too, Mom," Adrian said. We spent the entire day together. Walking through the park, Matthew ran ahead, taking pictures. Adrian and I strolled slowly, enjoying the sunshine and the breeze. "Mom, will you ever tell me about your time as a police officer?" he asked. "I grew up seeing you in uniform, but you never talked about it, because I didn't want to bring that darkness home," I said. "I saw terrible things, met awful people. When I came home, I just wanted to be your mother." "But that part is still part of you," Adrian said. We sat on a bench under an old oak tree. "Your toughest case?" he asked. I thought for a moment. An 8-year-old girl who went missing from school. Everyone thought she was dead, but I didn't give up. For 3 sleepless weeks, I checked every camera, questioned everyone, followed every tiny clue. And I found her alive, trembling, hiding in a neighbor's basement. She's a pediatrician now. Every Christmas she sends me a card to thank me. She says I saved her, but the truth is, she saved me. Now I understand why you 9 never gave up," Adrian said. "Because you knew how to investigate, how to fight until the end." "That's right," I said. "But more than that, it's because this was my family. And for family, I'll always fight." Matthew ran back, panting. "Grandma, Dad, there's a music festival over there. Can we go?" "Of course," I laughed. It was a Mother's Day festival, full of music, food, and craft booths. We ate corn on the cob, drank juice, and danced to a local band's music. When Matthew bought cotton candy, Adrian took my hand and twirled me to the rhythm. I laughed out loud, light as if the past years had never happened. People around us smiled as they watched. "We should have been like this long ago," Adrian said. "Laughing, enjoying, living. It's never too late, son." That night, Matthew did his homework while Adrian and I sipped chamomile tea. "Mom, there's something else," he said. I've been thinking about dating someone. She works at my company. Her name's Helena. She's an architect with a 12-year-old daughter. I tensed slightly, then exhaled. What's she like? Kind, genuine, divorced for 3 years. He smiled. And she doesn't care about my money. She actually earns more than I do. The most important thing is, when I told her everything about Vanessa, about my mistakes, she didn't walk away. She listened and said everyone deserves a second chance if they truly want to change. I think she sounds like a smart woman, I said. She is, Mom. And I want you to meet her, but only when you're ready. I don't want to rush it. Matthew hasn't met her yet. I wanted to talk to you first. After everything that's happened, I want to do this the right way. I want everyone to understand and feel comfortable. I placed my hand over his. You deserve happiness, Adrian. You deserve love. Just take it slow, get to know her. And when you're certain it's real, bring her to meet me. Thank you, Mom, Adrian said, and I looked at him seriously. But Adrian, there's one thing I need you to promise. In the future, in any relationship, if you ever feel someone is trying to pull you away from your family, from Matthew, from me, you stop immediately, understood? I promise, Mom. No one will ever come between us again. That night, before bed, I stepped onto the balcony. The city sparkled beneath the nightlights. I heard distant traffic, neighbors chatting, and music drifting from a nearby party. I thought about the road we'd traveled, the pain, the tears, the fights, Vanessa, and all the lost years. But I also thought about what we'd regained: warm dinners, laughter, hugs, and the chance to begin again. Matthew came out, a blanket over his shoulders. Can't sleep, Grandma? Just thinking, sweetheart. Thinking about what? That every tear, every argument, every hard moment was worth it just to reach this. 1. The boy stepped closer and hugged me. Grandma, there's something I've never told you. When I lived with Vanessa, there were times I was so hopeless that the only thought keeping me going was that you would never abandon me, that no matter what happened, you'd still be there for me. I placed my hand on his back, and I always will be, Matthew, until my very last breath. I want to be like you, strong, brave, someone who protects the people he loves. You already are, my dear boy. Do you know what I want to study? What is it, sweetheart? Law. I want to be a lawyer, not like Germano, but someone who defends families like ours, who stands up for children no one believes in, for people who need someone to fight for them. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Your mother would be so proud. And I'm proud of you, Grandma, Matthew smiled, because you taught me never to give up. We stood together under the starlit sky, on the bowed, small balcony of our city apartment. And in that moment, I understood something profound. Wealth isn't measured by property or bank balances, but by the moments we share, the hands we hold, and the stories passed through generations. Vanessa spent her life chasing money and never found happiness. She died alone in a prison cell, unloved and forgotten. But I had a grandson who wanted to be like me, a son who came home, and a family that wasn't perfect but was real, and that was all the treasure I ever needed. 2 years later, I sat in the community garden beneath the cherry tree we'd planted. That spring, it bloomed for the first time, its pale pink petals fluttering in the breeze. Matthew had started his first year of college, studying law. Adrian had married Helena 6 months earlier in a small, intimate ceremony. I was the one who walked my son down the aisle. When Adrian asked if I approved, I said, "Son, You're already a grown man. You don't need my permission anymore, but you have my blessing. I saw the way you two looked at each other. That's real love. Now they live just 10 minutes walk from me. I see them several times a week. Helena's daughter, Sophia, has become close with Matthew. Every Sunday, the four of them come over for dinner. A new family, different, but beautiful in its imperfection. Letitia sat beside me on the park bench. What are you thinking about, Melissa? I'm thinking about how life circles back and how scars make us stronger. Do you ever regret how you handled the Vanessa case? No. I did what needed to be done to protect my family, and if I had to do it again, I wouldn't hesitate. Did you know Paul Vega just got married? Letitia smiled, showing me a photo on her phone. Paul surrounded by friends and family, radiant on his wedding day. And one more thing, she said. Patricia Ferris just started a foundation to support victims of family fraud. It's named after the Melissa Carter Family Protection Fund. I was stunned. Why would she do that? Because you helped her believe in justice again. You proved that truth always wins if we're persistent enough. I could only smile. Matthew ran up, holding an envelope. Grandma, look at this. It was a letter from his university. He'd been selected for an international exchange program on human rights. I hugged him tightly. I'm so proud of you. You earned it because you never gave up. No, Grandma, it's because of you. You taught me justice is always worth fighting for. Not long after, Adrian and Helena arrived with a picnic basket. We spread a blanket under the cherry tree, ate, laughed, and shared old stories. As I looked around at the faces I had once fought to protect, I thought of Vanessa serving her sentence in that cold, lonely cell, bitter and alone, with no one to visit her. I didn't feel joy at her suffering. I felt pity, because she never understood the most important thing. True power isn't in how much you take, but in how much you're willing to give out of love. And I had given everything, my time, my strength, my tears, my heart. But in return, I'd received something no money could ever buy. A family that loves me, a legacy of justice, and the certainty that when my final day comes, I won't die lonely or forgotten. I'll leave this world surrounded by love, and that love will live on through Matthew, through Adrian, through the generations to come. That is the true legacy of a mother, a grandmother, a woman who never gave up, not wealth or fame, but love planted and nurtured with patience and tears, the kind of love that blooms like the cherry tree shining above us, steadfast and eternal. I'd love to hear your story. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Maybe your words will give hope to someone who needs to believe in love and family again. And if you'd like to walk with me through more journeys of the heart, where justice and compassion meet, stay with me. There are still so many stories I want to share with you.